So I was inspired by my friend Kevin Axtell to make a video once a week for the rest of 2020. I have a lot of thoughts that I want to share in sort of an unscripted way, unlike my podcast, which is called Head Over Feels. Go check it out, please. And today I wanted to talk about the concept of uncertainty. It is something that is so on the forefront of all of our lives right now, right, with what's going on. And uncertainty is something that is built into the human existence. It has been there since we evolved from apes, or our common ancestor. And at the time, uncertainty was a major factor in whether or not we survived as individuals or as tribes. In order to reduce the amount of uncertainty and therefore increase our chances of survival, we would try to do things to control things in our lives, right? And we still do this today. I think the evolutionary roots of why we're like this are still really present in our lives on a day-to-day basis, but we're not totally conscious of it. In our attempts at controlling some things in our lives in order to reduce the amount of uncertainty, sometimes we go a little too far. Sometimes we grasp at straws. Sometimes we try to hold water in our hands by gripping it, like squeezing the water, but that's not how you can hold on to water, right? It will run right through your fingers if that's how you try to hold it. It requires an openness, a receptivity, a relaxation of the hands, and sort of holding them in such a way that the water will stay there on its own without you forcing it to be there and therefore squeezing it out of your hands. And I think the inevitability of uncertainty in our lives is insanely frustrating because as much as we try to control things to reduce uncertainty, we're not that great at it. The universe just kind of sweeps in and knocks over our plans anyways. And I think we're all feeling a large degree of that right now. So many plans that I had for this year. 2020 was going to be my year, right? It still is. It still might be. But they're just completely knocked out. And my own future is very uncertain. I had to go through my calendar and just delete so many events and things that I was going to do for the rest of the year. My year is totally void of festivals, concerts, parties, gigs. My entire career just literally doesn't exist anymore in a sense. It is not functionally existing. And the blankness of the upcoming weeks on my calendar was sad because I missed the things that were going to be there. But how do you miss something that doesn't exist yet? It's the anticipation for it and the feelings that I suspected I would get from those experiences that I was looking forward to. And so you're sort of mourning a loss that hasn't happened yet, technically. And it got me thinking a lot about that blankness of the calendar. And I think it's sort of like the concept of a blank canvas. When I start with a blank canvas when I'm painting or something, it's pretty daunting because anything could be on the canvas. It is totally endless of possibility. If you imagine yourself in a white room, which is endless whiteness all around you, there's something scary and intimidating, almost terrifying about that, right? The endless expanse, the complete lack of structure of anything around you. There's no landmarks, there's no grid lines to kind of give you a sense of space or dimension. And on the flip side of that coin, though, uncertainty, that level of possibility, could be seen as exciting or energizing because what goes into that white space, what goes on that blank canvas, is totally up to you. I mean, within the realistic constraints of what you're working with, right? I can only use the paints that are in my paint set at the moment, but I have the ability to go get different paints. I have the ability to make my own paints like I did as a kid by mashing berries together and painting on rocks. So control comes from the limited ability that we have to work with what's in our toolbox to create something on the blank canvas of uncertainty in front of us. And this got me thinking about a voicemail I received from an ex so long ago when we were just starting to date. This was maybe 12 years ago. And he was pontificating about the future as a concept and how he was excited for it despite the fact that the future was unknown. This was sort of in the context of our budding relationship at the time. And he said, nobody knows what the future holds. Nobody at all. But that's what makes the future so great. And I saved that email for years after that voicemail for years after we broke up, actually, because I loved listening to it. It made me feel a sense of limitless possibility. And it was a comforting thought that despite the uncertainty of the future, there were things to look forward to that didn't even exist yet. And it kind of made me wonder recently, is the fact that no one knows what the future holds, is that what makes the future so great? Is that the thing that's exciting about it? Is that what we like about it? And when I think about the future as a concept, it is only possibility. It does not exist. I was thinking about this book I just finished reading by Eckhart Tolle called The Power of Now. I highly recommend it. Please go read it. And he was talking about the fact that now is all that exists, right? And when you think about that in a literal sense, it's true and it's very intuitive, but I don't think we think of time in that fashion typically. The past doesn't exist anymore. It's only a collection of memories. The future does not yet exist because it's only hypothetical. We can only loosely predict what the future will hold based on past experiences and current conditions and things like that. But it also doesn't exist. All that exists is the now, right now, and right now. So the other now doesn't exist anymore. It's in the past. So being purely in the moment, in the sequence of slivers of time, now again, it's very difficult to hold yourself there all the time. And there's so many tools to help you with this, like meditation and other spiritual practices, plant medicines, listening to the stillness and the silence, contemplating nothingness. It's almost so intuitive that it's difficult. Like it's very ass backwards, and I would love to dive into that in another video sometime because I'd love to hear your experiences with that. How do you stay in the now? I think this pandemic is forcing us to be in the now, right? Because we can't visit our past at all. It's gone. Collection of memories. And our futures are pretty much blank for the most part. We can predict certain things like, I'm going to be in my apartment tomorrow. I'm probably going to eat these things. I'm probably going to, talk to my roommate about these things. But the future is just a collection of possibilities. And so when you are stuck in the now, when you are forced to be aware of just how now it is, just how much we can only be in this now, my future calendar is blank. There is nothing in it. The future does not exist, more so than it used to not exist, right? It's a little more present. It's a little more visceral. So when we think about the possibilities that could come in the future, that is where the ability to cope with uncertainty comes from, I believe. So when you think about the things you're excited for, your ability to control some things can be channeled into your activities about creating your future. The future is a thing that is made. Humans are meaning-making machines. We don't do well in the concept of meaninglessness. And so we assign meanings to many things in our lives, including the future, especially the future. And that is the main way that I've been wrapping my head around this stuff and making myself feel better about the future, because there are so many things that I'm really excited to put into my own future. I could go on about those for like 20 minutes, but they're ideas, they're dreams, they're possibilities. And in some ways, the lack of some of the things that were going to be in my future, festivals, gigs, whatever, has made space for other things to now be in my future. And I'm pretty thrilled about that because I can now create and fill in those spaces. I can put things into my calendar in maybe a more haphazard or arbitrary way, or I can follow my own timeline that's now free to be a little more flexible with what I'm doing and what I'm making in my future. So I hope this is something that you can connect with as well, and that you find meaning in creating your own future. I would love to hear about what the blank canvas feels like to you. In what ways does that feel relevant or accurate to your experience of your own contemplation of your future right now? And in what ways are you being forced into the now more? So thanks for listening. It's fun to hear from you guys and chat about these things. So yeah, I hope you're having an amazing day. Share with me your thoughts, please. Let me know in the comments if this is something you enjoy and would like me to do more of. I was super inspired by a couple friends, especially Diana, shout out to the beautiful Queen D, about being more vulnerable and sharing things about myself on social media in just sort of like unscripted type way. Anyways, enjoy. And since it's Monday, go check out the latest episode of my podcast, Head Over Feels. Talk to you guys next week.